Hey guys, it's Max. Welcome to my video autofocusing comparison featuring the new Olympus E-M1 Mark II compared to the Panasonic G85, which is their newest, and Sony's latest, the a6500. Now, all three of these cameras have touchscreens, so we're going to test out the touch to focus in both good lighting and underexposed low light scenarios, as well as face detect and tracking autofocus. I have many other tests that I've already done comparing this camera to these two that are posted on my channel, so I'll leave a link in the video description that you guys can click and check those out, and I'm going to have a full detailed review of this camera's video functions out shortly, so make sure you guys hit that subscribe button and enable notifications. Now on the Sony camera, we're using the 51.8, which is a very inexpensive lens, but it's nice and sharp. And it does have stabilization built into it, and it also has quite a bit of focus breathing, where on the 12 to 35 2.8 that we're using on the Olympus doesn't have very much focus breathing. Now this test right here against the 6500, we could do side by side, where when we're going to do the G85 test, we won't be able to do. We're still going to do the same kind of movements and tests, so you guys will just see that, but I only have one 12 to 35 to use, unfortunately. So we're going to be shooting at an f2.8 aperture, all the way at 35, and the Sony is also going to be at f2.8, even though it does have less in focus, so keep that in mind. It's more difficult for the Sony to keep the subject perfectly in focus because it has a shallower depth of field. Now I contemplated changing it to about an f4, which would give a comparable depth of field, but then people are going to be complaining about that. So we'll give an advantage to the Panasonic and the Olympus compared to the Sony, and we'll see how they stack up. Now the next thing we're going to test is the video autofocus, specifically the touch screen. All three of these cameras do have touch screens, so we're going to see how responsive and accurate that works for video usage. First thing I'm going to see is what the camera decides to focus on in this scene. So we went ahead and turned on the camera, and before I even hit record, you see that it decided to focus on that Rockstar can, and that's the closest thing to the subject. It's the largest, but we actually have a light that's basically backlighting the can directly behind, so that makes it more difficult. And we also have all these other things in the background that are distracting and could grab the focus, but the camera decided to focus on this, which would be my main subject. This is often an issue where you're focusing on somebody's face or something that's close and it seems obvious that you'd want it to focus on your subject, but the camera would just decide to focus in the background. So we're going to go ahead, I'm going to switch it to our touch mode. It switched over there, and I'm going to hit record so you guys can see that view. So the can, then it's backlit, so this is difficult. And how about that right there? So that's a salt lamp. Also, it emits light, which makes it more difficult to focus on that subject. Back to the can. Quite fast and quite responsive. This is better than the beta version I used in Austin. As you guys see, so far that was very good. All right, switching over to the G85, I'm going to turn it on. It is already on wide mode. Hit record. And unlike the Sony, it's just staying on the background. Go ahead and touch that. We are in continuous. Okay, might not like that. Let's go to one area. Okay, so it took longer to do so, it's a little smoother, but it also kind of racked back and forth. Not bad that time. Pretty good that time too. A little bit slow for my liking. If you're doing something very cinematic, very slow, that'd be nice. But if you just want to switch points, it's a little too slow. So that's doing pretty well. What I've seen in the past, there you go, you guys, it kind of like confirms it. Gets the focus point and then it moves back and forth to make sure it's in focus, which that's something you do not want in your video. It does not look very good. So it gets a little bit hit or miss. It is a little bit slow, but that's pretty good right there, surprisingly. Okay, it's grabbing. I actually touched it where there's a little bit of that point is on that lamp. It did not want to stay. And lastly, let's take a look at the OMD E-M1 Mark II. We're in video mode. And there you go, it did grab on to the Rockstar. So I think that is a good sign. Touch to focus, touch to focus. Hesitated there for a bit. I thought it wasn't going to go, and then it went for it. So it does have a little bit of focus confirmation, maybe not on all of them, but at times it'll kind of rack back and forth a little bit. Now we're going to make this a little bit more difficult, and we're going to do a low light scenario. So we have some underexposed objects instead of a nice perfect exposure. So we're currently focused on the can. I'm going to focus on these little plate of decoration things. Okay, interesting. So it's not really doing anything. Previously, it would start focusing right away, and it was pretty accurate. Where now, okay, we're still in the, it didn't shift from the can. Okay, there we go. It worked that time. Hit the can again. There you go. It's not having much trouble in the can. I wonder it's because, maybe it's because when I touched this last time, I had the light in the box. There we go, yeah. So Right now I'm not selecting, the box didn't cover any of that salt lamp in the background, and now it's not focusing. Salt lamp is emitting light and it's contrasty from the background, so that's easy for it. Usually if you're trying to autofocus in the dark, low light ceremony, you want to focus on something that has a good contrast difference. It was gonna go there for a second, but it decided not to. What's in focus right now? So low light situations, unless you have nice contrast, like from a light source or something like that, it does struggle a bit. So I'm curious how the other cameras are going to compare. We've switched over to the G85 now. I'm going to hit record, and the screen's dimmer on this one. Looks like we're focused on the can. All right, so it actually, I think it's in focus. You guys will see better if it's in focus or not, but it actually pulsated twice to try to check focus confirmation instead of typically where it would do one. Can. Currently nothing is in focus. Yeah, looks like everything is out of focus right now. Okay, let's go back to that. Okay, definitely a noticeable focus shift at the end, but it looks like it locked it in focus. Underexposed can. And I think I got it that time. Let's try the lamp. Got that, and that's the easiest one. Shift back to the can. Yeah, pulsates a little bit. See, I would not want that in my video footage. So not terrible, but okay, even more pulsating there. But it's doing it. It's getting it done. So if you're trying to do a professional product, this is not what you would want to do, but just for yourself, it might not be too bad. But personally, I would, there you go, now nothing's in focus again. Personally, I'd be using manual focus in this situation, which is typically what I do in lower light situations anyways. We'll switch over to the Sony. Lamp, can. So more focus shifting on this one. I don't know if it makes it harder to autofocus or not. It does make it a little bit more difficult to choose what should be in focus or not. So it looks like for the touch video autofocusing, the Sony is doing the best job. So video autofocusing can be helpful for both professionals like myself that have been using manual focusing for years and years, as well as beginners who are just starting out and would like to just tap and track and just make it a lot easier, especially with these new lenses that don't manual focus very well since they're electronically adjusted. And in scenarios like this where I'm recording myself, I'm at f1.8 with a shallow depth of field on the a6500 with that 51.8 lens, and hopefully this is keeping me in focus and not shifting back to the background or anything like that. I literally just left it in manual, and I have multiple different light sources and stuff like that in the background, so we'll see how that does. In my opinion, Sony was the clear winner here. I was surprised by how well that tap to focus did. Even though the touchscreen is kind of slow in the photo mode, it does a pretty good job in the video mode. And second place has got to be the Olympus. Now, it did a good job overall. There were a few times where it just wouldn't focus, or for example, one shot would be nice and smooth and kind of slow, and then another shot it would kind of like hesitate at first, not do anything, and then go really fast. And I don't know if that could be fixed in future firmware updates, but so far there hasn't been any firmware updates for this camera. And last place has got to be the Panasonic. It does okay sometimes, but overall it's a little slow, and sometimes it just won't focus. You guys may have seen that a few times, it just hangs there. Other times it'll hang there for maybe 5 seconds or more before it decides to focus. And it's interesting because it tracks the face and the eyes really well. It's the only camera that actually will enable eye autofocus in the 4K mode, and it'll track the eye crazy well. Like the subject will be moving just a little bit and it'll stay on there. but it just won't focus, and sometimes it hangs, sometimes it doesn't kind of know what to do. And this is typical with the GH4, and this is actually improved over the GH4, but Panasonic has some work to do, and what I've seen so far from the GH5, they have made some great improvements on that camera, even though it does not have phase detection like these two other cameras. So I'm excited to hear your guys' opinion. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button if you guys want to see the full detailed review of this camera in regards to video, and I'll have some links in the video description where you guys can find the lenses and the camera bodies and stuff like that. And when you guys use those links, it gives us a few pennies on the dollar, helps us make more videos like this one. And once again, a big shout out to all the patrons who for $2 or $5 a month get extra bonuses and support what we do. Really helps us out be able to focus and be able to spend some time doing these kind of videos instead of just focusing on, you know, full reviews or other type of things. So thank you guys. If you guys want to be a part of that, there's going to be a link in the video description, and I will see you in the next video.